All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the full blueprint Necramech build guide. This, of course, is a guide to building your Necramech because you want to do the new war in all likelihood. So for that, this is an exhaustive guide to every single step that you're going to need to take in order to get your Necramech together. And because this video is probably going to be kind of long, please use the chapters on the bottom of the video to scroll around to what information you specifically need. Starting with what are we building? We are building the Voidrig. The Voidrig Blueprints are rewarded if you have done the Heart of Deimos quest, and you have done the Heart of Deimos quest. If you know what a Necramech is, just in general, this is the quest that introduces them, and it also inboxes you with all of these blueprints in order to build the Voidrig whenever you complete it. So there's obviously quite a few pieces here and a bunch of brand new materials that you've almost certainly never seen before outside of a couple. Those couple of materials I want to talk about first, those being the Morphics. Morphics easily farmed, especially for newer players, over on Zeugma on Phobos, as it is the extra resources node and is just generally very good for Morphics, and also notably Plastids, which we're going to need in a little bit here. And we have Orokin cells. Orokin cells, you're going to want to go to Helen on Saturn, as it's a very well-populated node. That's also notably very good for leveling items if you need to do that. And that's really great because getting a higher group together means more spawns, which means more resource drops. In addition to that, you can also use the Dark Sector nodes that have the additional resource drops on Saturn, but personally, I find Helen to honestly be more consistent for it. Otherwise, we need to get into some different topics. So the order in which all of the weird stuff is going to be covered is we're going to talk about getting the actual tools you'll need, both for mining and fishing first. Then we're going to get our damaged Necramech pieces, as there's a unique one for each of the different pieces you need to build. And then we're going to go over how to get the actual fishing done, because you need to do a little bit of it at least first. And then how to get all of the mining stuff, as it's easily the most complicated part. That's going to be the whole back end of the video. So let's go get our tools, and instead of going to Deimos, we actually need to stop first over on Fortuna. So over on Fortuna, we need to get our actual mining tool. To start us off on Fortuna, we need to talk to Smokefinger, who's here, and notably, if you want to easily find anyone, you can hold your gear wheel and just fast travel to anyone you need. But we need to talk to Smokefinger. Smokefinger is in charge of the mining, and in his wares, we can find the Sunpoint Plasma Drill. This can do all of the mining in Warframe, so it's the only thing you're going to need, which is, of course, stellar. With that, it does cost 2,500 rep, but luckily that's pretty easy to get if we just go talk to Utico, who we can grab a bounty from, and as long as you're able to complete at least the level 20 to 41, you're going to get a guaranteed amount enough to go get that Sunpoint Plasma Drill. That is what we need from here, as it's going to enable us to mine, and that's going to be, of course, critical for all of the materials we're going to need. So with that, we can now move on over to the Necrolisk on Deimos for the rest of what we're going to need. Now that we're at the Necrolisk, kind of the same stuff applies. You will, of course, use fast travel to get to whoever you need to get to, starting with Daughter. Daughter is the one who's in charge of fishing on Deimos. And from her, we can get the Sparry Spear. This is the only spear you're going to need, and it's available right away just for 500 rep. That 500 rep you're going to get from Mother bounties. And speaking of Mother, you will need for this guide to rank her up once. You will need to go from rank 0 in Trotty to rank 1 in order to get all the blueprints you're going to need. So do a few of these bounties. You'll get a bunch of these tokens. Again, just whichever one you're most comfortable with. They give 100 rep per piece. So like the second level one is 2,700 rep. And you'll have to get a bunch of these tokens. So just do whichever the highest one is that you're most comfortable with and can easily complete. I will say I tend to find that the two higher ones actually are more likely to grab a squad than the lower level ones. So perhaps that factors in. But just get a bunch of Mother tokens. Once you have a bunch of Mother tokens, the way to actually turn them in for rep is to go ahead and go talk to Grandma. Grandma, you can trade tokens for Entrati standing, and you can see here they're worth 100 apiece. So just turn those in and get however much rep you're going to need at the different points. So you'll need the initial 5,000, and then to rank up, and of course you'll need to spend 500 to get the spear for the next part that we're going to need, which is the requirements to actually rank up. So once you have your spear and you've got it equipped on your gear wheel, and you've, of course, also got the mining drill equipped on your gear wheel, you've got both the Sparry Spear and the Sunpoint Plasma Drill equipped and available for use, we can head out into the Cambion Drift. But before we just head on out, let's talk about those damaged Necramech parts that we're going to need. Those are easily obtained now that you know how to get rep from Father, who just has them in his wares. These are going to be the damaged Necramech casing, Necramech engine, Necramech pod, and Necramech weapon pod. Once you have these 4, they're 2,000 rep apiece. And that's all you're going to need for these. There are technically other places you could get them. You could get them from doing, like, killing Necramechs in the vaults and doing all that stuff, but it's all much more complex than just turning in some rep with Father and getting really easy access to all of these parts. So definitely you're going to want to grab them from him. Now that you know where to get these parts, we can actually head out and grab all of our other additional resources we're going to need. Okay, now that we're out in the Cambion Drift, let's go over the basics that you're going to need to know. First and foremost, use your gear wheel to equip the Sparry Spear. We have a few things to go over. You have the Sparry Spear equipped, so you don't need to worry about that. But in the bottom right, you'll see that we can hold our 2 to swap, and that is going to swap us between baits. We have the Voam and the Phos Residue, which are going to be both important baits for the fish that we're going to be needing. So the way that you tell which one of those residues is available and which one is what you can get is by opening your map by holding your map button. And in the bottom right, you can see Voam is in 1 hour, which means it's currently Phos, who's this guy right here. With that, also holding M to open your map lets you get the fast travel points, which are going to be very, very useful and something that I very much suggest using, especially if you're very new and don't have your Arcwing to use out here. But basically, if Phos is up, Voam material is available, and if Voam is up, Phos material is available. Now, you will need Voam material. So the blue material you'll absolutely need for this guide. But the Phos material is actually optional, and it just depends on if it is available. There's a specific fish you can go get that will clear this first objective. And if the Voam is available, then you can get that and get a different fish, which will also clear this first objective, because the first thing we need are spinal core sections. We need 3 of them to get our initial rank up with the Necrolisk. So, because it is currently Voam is available, you can see down here, this area usually has whatever residue is available. We have this Voam residue, and all we need to do in order to collect this is just shoot it. Just shoot it and pick it up, and it's really as simple as that. I would say in totality, you might need as much as 15 of this stuff, but it's, guaranteed. You could go in and out of the Necrolisk a bunch of times and just grab everything that you need for that. So really, really trivial to acquire. Now, I am going to show where you're going to go. Really, whether you need Voam or Phos residue, you go to the same place. But for that, we need to talk about our caves. So the cave where I most like to do cave fishing is this one here. And I'm just going to teleport here because there's some enemies pestering me. This is where I usually teleport to get over to this place anyway. But with that, this is the cave where I go for basically all of the cave fishing we're going to be doing, as it is excellent for it. So if it is currently Phos, you can come in here. And in here, we have 2 spots where there can be a hot spot. Right now, there's not a hot spot. This one just spawned in, actually. You see this kind of shimmer, this kind of like kind of light aurora borealis type effect. It's more prominent in some other locations, so I'll try and show those. But this is what you're looking for if you're going to be using Voam in order to get the spinal cord sections you need. Luckily, this actually is total overlap with some of the other stuff that we need. So we might get kind of a twofer here. You want to equip your Sparry Spear and then take out your Voam residue. And then in the hotspot, you want to use your 2 to throw that. And the things that you're looking for here when you do that are Chondricords, which give you the spinal core pieces that you need. And you have a chance to get Duroids, which are a little bit more rare, but they will spawn in hotspots in caves, which is what this is, but only if you use Voam residue. Luckily, Voam residue is the one that's always, well, not always, but nearly always available, as it is much longer for Phos to be out than Voam. So most of the time, this is going to be what you're up to in order to get all this done. Obviously, these other fish, just catching them to get them out of the way kind of like opens up the spawns, essentially, for you to see the fish you actually want to see. So I will hopefully be able to see some Chondricord and also some Duroids, so I can show you what those look like. Oh, here we are. We have a Chondricord here. You can see here these like blue guys kind of swimming away because he's, let me just grab him. These are kind of like a weird techie blue thing. But yeah, this is a Chondricord. These are going to give these spinal core fragments. So there's another one there. I think the Chondricords give more spinal fragments than the other fish. So you might only need 2 of them, because I think they might give 2 apiece. But those are going to give you those spinal fragments if you don't get them from any of like the crates and stuff you can break out here. Like I said, this is also going to be how you're going to get the much more rare fish, the Duroid. And there they are. So yeah, the Duroid, you're going to need 3 total Duroids. And they are squirrely. I just missed that one. All right, looks like we missed that Duroid, and another one did not spawn. But the reason why this spot is so good is showing itself off. This hotspot has dissipated, which means it's no longer available. But the other side of this room can also be a hotspot, which it is now, as you can see that kind of faint effect here. So we can just walk to the other side of this room and drop one of these residues and hopefully get the Duroids this way. Another Chondricord for us. Chondricord spawning very easily for us with the foam bait. But the Duroids are what we want. Another Chondri. So getting the while you're trying to get the Duroids, getting the spinal core fragments is not going to be difficult. Tons and tons of Chondries will spawn for you, because you will, in addition to the 3 you need for your initial rank up, you will also, there's a Duroid. There we are. These little guys here. You will need 3 Duroids in order to get all the materials you'll need for your Necramech. But you will need 12 of those spinal core fragments. So those plus the others, another Duroid right there. A little bit lucky to get 2 in a row so quickly, but nice. As you can see, they're real. But yeah, this is like a phenomenal place for them. This is like, you know, just like, I would say the spot in order to farm Duroids and Chondricords. But yeah, you'll need the 12 spinal core fragments for the Necramech and 3 for the rank up. And then the Duroids, you'll need 3 of them in order to get the biotic filters that they give you. And then we only have 1 other fish to get. But before we get to that, in addition to, obviously, this is my preferred location. I love this spot for doing all the cave fishing. But there is another place to consider that you can do cave fishing in that has a lot of available hotspots. So if we jump back out, we can go over here to this teleport. And this is a cave you're probably going to be using a ton anyway because of the mining that we're going to be doing. But we just jump into here. This kind of river here can have a ton of hotspots. You can see one right there already that are along it. So up in here, here's another hotspot that this is on. The hotspot you can see actually a lot better in this room. It's this, like I said, kind of Aurora Borealis type effect. But yeah, this starts up here. This is a great spot for fishing as well. And then you can just follow the river down. And there's I think, 4 more hotspots potentially along this. Wow, they're all here. There's 1 here, 1 there, 1 up top. That's 3. And then, yeah, I think there's 2 along this path, though it might just be 1 that can be here. But there's a bunch of hotspots that are all along this that you can, as you can see, get. Hotspots are fairly common. You just have to know where to look. But yeah, those 2 spots for fishing are really what I would suggest. But you can see this cave is a little more active with the enemies and annoyances. So I still usually tend towards the other. Now, with that, we have 1 surface fish to talk about. Now, the surface fish is only available during VOM, which means if you can see this guy, you're never ever going to see the fish that we're about to talk about. So we're not going to see him over here, but thankfully, if you are destroying crates and things, both in the caves and out in the world, the parts for this fish can just drop anyway. And it's likely how you're going to get it because you're probably going to be breaking crates while you're mining. But if we come over here to the abscess, which I usually just teleport over onto here, there's a phenomenal spot for outdoor fish, which is just, as you can see how phenomenal it is, there are like 4 hotspots active right now. And the fish that will appear here, again, only during VOM, not during FOSS, is the Lobotriscid, which gives you parasitic tether maw. So you'll need to grab 4 of them. They are a common fish that requires no bait whatsoever, so you'll literally just walk over here, in and out, 5-minute adventure as long as VOM's up, and really, really easily grab those parts. But this is absolutely my preferred place for outdoor fishing. So whether you need cave fish or indoor fish, you now know how to get them. Same as fishing in terms of how to mine, you want to make sure you open your menu and open the Sunpoint Plasma Drill. Now, luckily, we have a few things here even at the entrance that we can use as a little tutorial for this. On the left side of the screen, you can see those little rock icons. That means that there are places to mine around me. Very importantly, on the mini map, you can see those little crystal icons. those also mark points where there's something to mine. If we walk towards one of them, like say this one, you can see it also has a height indicator and this very faint like triangle, or well, I guess it's a diamond, I suppose, that kind of covers these points. These orange or blue points will be the mining nodes that you need. So if you zoom in with your mining tool, you'll see these points that are on them. We can just click on these, and you'll have to click and hold in order to start mining. And then you want to release in the like little specified window there. In addition to that, they can be moving. And there's also a few special ones that we'll show when we get to it. As you can see there, that's 12 Namelon. It is worth noting that for this video, I do have a booster. So usually that would be 6 Namelon. So please take that into account. But that is how to mine very specifically. Now, what you probably want to know is where to mine. There is one really, really easy, great place to go for this. And then there's a couple of others that are going to be useful if you don't have that available. So the really, really easy one is this. If you talk to Mother here, you can do a tier 1 isolation vault, which is always going to let you collect some of those different like Voam pieces or Phos pieces. And then it'll send you underground in order to go down into the tunnels, which is, where is that entrance? There it is. Which is this entrance here. Basically, it'll have you do a little activity first, and then it'll send you down into the depths here. And in this area, once you're actually down in it, into the, like, you know, the vault, as it were, this area spawns a ton of mining nodes. And you can go in there, not even actually worry about completing the vault once it's open, and just mine so many nodes. In addition to that, there are a couple other places that I find to be pretty good. One of them is really close by. So right here, this teleport point here, this cave right below it, which is actually at the bottom of this right here. This cave I find to be really good if you're just out and about, just want to do like a quick run through a cave. Just running through this cave is usually my go-to for that. And you can see like just a few nodes like appear on our map as we are running through. You can see up on the ceiling here. Worth noting, you can zoom in with this with your alt fire. You can just mine, see if we can get one of the special points. There it is. That really thin part will mean, I missed it, will mean that if you stop on it, you'll actually get an additional resource from the node. So that's really important to note, that you do want to be trying to check and see if you see those, and because you can just get better stuff whenever you stop on those. So like in this case, I got Bapholite and then also Necrathine. The Bapholite we do need, the Necrathine we don't. But that is important. Oh, these, while we're here, these are the things that's important to destroy, as they can give you Dendrite Blastoma, as you can see there, and a bunch of different materials that you're probably going to want. So keep those in mind as well while you are rushing through caves and such. And then let's see all these different ones. We're running into a lot of like these orange nodes, which are minerals. Blue nodes, which you should hopefully see in a moment here, are the gems that you're going to need, which are those easier ones to refine, but not always the easier ones to get, as blue nodes tend to be more rare than the yellow nodes. I will note that once you, here's a blue node, once you only need your blue node materials, it's usually really good to do what I'm going to show next on my next orange node, because you'll get fewer materials, but it won't matter because you're just trying to clear the node of a thing you don't really need anyway. And that is, of course, now they're all going to be blue whenever I want to show that. You see, you can get the extra points on blue nodes as well. There you go, more Necrathine. It's worth noting the extra resource drops on the reds can be gems and stuff, so you will want to do those no matter what. But on reds, you basically like check, see if there's an extra drop. If there's not, just stop, and check, see if there's an extra drop. If there is, do it. And that's how, once you have all of like the basic red material you're going to need, that's kind of the best way to go about doing all of these different nodes. For blue nodes, obviously you're just going to want to like get maximum amounts out of it. Especially for Hesifron, you're probably going to be here a while. That's almost certainly going to be the thing you will get last, because I find it to be like the most rare of any of the materials. But in here on like a yellow like this, like just click it and then move on. Like you'll get the Thaumica out of it, and then just like, you know, just keep going. It's better to go fast once you're already at like all the materials you need. You will unfortunately sometimes run into this where sometimes things spawn in walls, unfortunately. But luckily you'll have that radar from the sun point to kind of know when that's happening. In addition to this cave, though, the other place that, hey, you'll probably recognize is to just fast travel over to the cave that we were at for the long cave for fishing before. And this cave is pretty solid for it. If we just like jump in here and take that plasma drill out, you can see a ton of spots on the map. I'm not going to bore you with like just going through and like mining them all here, as you're probably going to have to mine quite a bit yourself. But there's that one, which is great. And then if we come over here to this other cave that is across the way, this cave also is pretty flush with different mining nodes. Also, this cave is really good because you will have all of these infested cysts that I keep mentioning that will drop more and more resources for you. Yeah, running through both of these two very large caves is usually going to be pretty good if you're not going to be going down into the like Necramech vaults and stuff and going through all of that hassle. But these two are great for that. This one is really just only mining, and the other is kind of like more of each. But yeah, just like go through, hit the nodes, and do all that good business, and that's going to do it for just, you know, getting all of the actual Deimos materials that you need. However, you do not only need Deimos materials. You will also need materials from the Plains of Eidolon and from Fortuna in order to get these made, as you will need Travoride and I believe Pyrol in addition to that. So let's look at where to go on Plains of Eidolon and where to go on Fortuna in order to do the farming you're going to need to do there. All right, out here on the plains, you have a few choices for where you want to go mining. A lot of people really like going over here to the Vigil and using the cave here because it's usually pretty well stocked with nodes. And if you think you're going to get lucky and get everything done really quickly, that's a really good spot to go. Otherwise, if you need a ton of nodes now, I actually really prefer Mount Neng, specifically this cave inside of this Grenier base. So if we teleport up here, I will show specifically where we're going. Just up this hill. Also, we are Zephyr, for those wondering. And then down into the cave below it. I will take this out so you can see just the vast amount of nodes on my map. There's absolutely no shortage of nodes here. They start here, and then like they will just continue as we go down. And this is a gigantic cavern with just so many mining nodes. You will likely only need one trip here in order to get everything that you need. It is a very, very, very big resource. So this is going to be the place that you'll go. And then everything for the mining is the same. You have the red nodes and you have your blue nodes. You'll have your like additional spots and all that stuff, and you'll get the materials from them as you begin mining through here. So pretty easy stuff on the plains. Really, it's just one-stop shop. Come in here and mine to your heart's content. Moving on to Fortuna. All right, coming out into Fortuna, into Orvalis, we can hold our map, and the place where I prefer to do all of my mining is actually right down here by the transit depot. So if we just teleport down here, see our waypoint down here, which is just down the road from where we teleported to, under these two big spires. And then this is just the cave here. And this cave is usually quite good. It's usually a little populated with enemies, so that is a thing to be wary of. But just in general, as you can see the map zoom in, it's going to be pretty well populated. I find like my luck here with blue nodes especially is usually pretty good. And you're not going to need much from here. But just, there we go. Just run through and grab all this. You can see it's like pretty well done. You might need 2 or 3, like go back into Fortuna, come back out and do this cave a few times. But that is the way that I have pretty much always farmed Fortuna. This cave has just been the most consistent for me. It's one of like the least messy caves on Fortuna, I will say. And it's just like a straight line through, get it all mined, and then just go reset really quickly, which is way easier now with the fast traveling as well. So it's even better than it's been in the past. You don't even need your Arcwing or to be a fast Warframe or anything like that in order to make it worthwhile. But yeah, this is the cave that I really highly suggest using for this. And just to show where I am on the map once again, if I hold M here, and that goes away, I'm just down here, transit depot, straight to the left, just along the road. The cave entrance is marked up here, but I always use this bottom entrance, which I guess is supposed to be the exit. But yeah, just transit depot, and like follow the road down, and it's like directly on your right. Nice big open spot here. and fantastic for mining everything that you're going to need from Fortuna. With that, let's head back to our ship and talk about a few of the other requirements that are on these different materials. All right, back in our foundry, you've bought all of the things from OTAC, like the Dromal alloy, which we're going to talk about first. With all that stuff bought, we have a couple other things to talk about. Obviously, you need the Traverod, which we just talked about getting from Fortuna, but there's also plastids on here. I did mention this earlier, but I'll mention it again here. You are going to want to go to Zeugma on Phobos. That's a really good spot for plastids. So I would suggest picking those up there. That'll be a really just like pretty easy farming spot to go to for all that stuff. And then the Adramalium is obviously the material that you're going to get from mining on Deimos. So that's the Adramal out of the way, as we already mentioned the Lucent Terraclobes before. Then we are going to need the Bapholite. Bapholite is the Pyrrole, which you're going to get from the Plains of Eidolon. The Bapholite, which you're going to get from Deimos, and then those Lucent Terraglobes, and Nanospores. Nanospores are really trivially easy. You're going to get these while you're on Deimos. You're going to have to kill some amount of enemies anyway, and it's a pretty trivial amount of Nanospores. You can see they're quite common, so should be no issue to pick up those Nanospores just from killing enemies on Deimos. While you're doing those bounties and stuff, you're almost certainly already going to have all of that. And then last, we need the Namelon, which is the devolved Namelon. This is going to be the Pharos from Plains of Eidolon, which is the other Plains of Eidolon material you're going to need. The Namelon from Deimos. Some Rubido, which, you know, plenty of places to get that. That's great on Earth. It's really a very small amount of Rubido that you almost certainly already have anyway. But Earth is generally a pretty good place to get it, although it spawns on so many different planets. You can go to the Void, get a ton of this, like really anywhere. I mean, Phobos, it'll also be on Phobos, so Zeugma Phobos will probably give you all of this you're going to need at the very least, like worst case scenario too. So it should be pretty easy on the regular materials. With all of that stuff farmed, your Necramech is done. That's all we needed to do. Obviously, the mining and the fishing can take a while, but now that you know where to go for all of that stuff, it should at the very least speed all of that stuff way up. So with that, put everything together and then just build the Void Rig itself, which will also require some credits, but not more than you very likely already have. And that'll do it. That will be the complete build for the Necramech. I hope this has been a very helpful video for you, as this can be, you know, a big leap to figure out all of the mining stuff and where to do it and like how to fish and what does a hotspot look like for fishing and all of that business. But I hope this has led you well through the Necramech and you can get moving on to the new war once it is built. Let me know in the comments if you have other suggestions for different places that you prefer to mine or that you prefer to fish, as I'm always curious to maybe like find some improvements and I can update this guide if there's some really good suggestions. But yeah, hopefully this has been helpful to you, and good luck in the new war. All right. Hey, turns out you have to record these more often than I have been. My huge apologies, but thank you very much to all of the patrons who have been sticking with. It is very much appreciated because things got weird during the streamathon. But thank you to Athean, Angel SPM, Arbiter Daydream, Barkus, Benuven, Plotomatic, Brutus Salazar, Canolathra, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, James Harsthorn, Josh, Bluzanth, Mikokel, Minty Ginja, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, Sanyu, Skur, Sharp247, The Coupon of Death, Waifu Wars, Zeraphir, Alex Barnum, Bob World 3, JC4 Science, and World01, and of course all of the other $5 and $2 patrons. It is extremely appreciated. I'll try and keep this more updated now that the 4 months of Streamathon is over. Good lord. But yeah, lots more guides happening. I think I'm going to be looking to get the site guides like kind of done for at least the CPR, and that's kind of the plan going forward if you're curious on updates for the channel.